Welcome to the Boxing Source Midweek Report, where we tackle the latest topics in the sport of boxing here up to this point every single Wednesday. Time to start the show. Yo, 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 yo. What's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? Want to get this thing going here with the Boxing Source Midweek Report, we have a lot of things to try to go over. Yes, I'm still, recovering from being over in Vegas over the past week, or what I would say 5 or 6 days, of course, with what happened in Allegiant Stadium and also at, Fontainebleau in Las Vegas. And, we, still have a few things to catch up with that we're going to be talking about here in this particular portion of the midweek report. We're going to go over the updated Boxing Source pound for pound rankings, right? And we're also going to touch on the World Boxing Council rankings that was just released here. But wanted to see if I could catch up with somebody here real quick to see if we'll be able to chime in on a couple of things that happened over the previous weekend. This is one of the topics here for discussion. So I'm seeing if we could get them on here. So let's see here. We're going to do some live call-ins. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do some live call-ins. Let's do it. Let's see what's happening. See if I try to get them on. Let's see here. All right, didn't necessarily work right there. But we had something where we were going to reach out to one person that was going to be a guest here on this particular midweek report. Hopefully, we're able to get them on here a little bit later on, because this has been a really interesting story here, real quick. So we got to go through this here in a bit. Hold on a second. Hold on. Hello.
Hey, what up, bro?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Coach?
Hey, nothing different, man.
Hey, man, yeah. So just catching up and everything like that. You're on with the Boxing Source here with the midweek report. Of course, we had our earlier conversation about Jalil Hackett going after the WBO champion Xander Zayas, man. So I wanted to get a little bit more on that here while you're on with me.
That's the fight we want. And it's not a pick as Xander. It's, if you really think about it, Xander is the WBO champion. He's 22 years old. Jalil is 22 years old. Just made his introduction at 154. If you think about it, Xander, from my understanding, wants a title defense this year, and he wants it in Puerto Rico. We're the only person that's willing to go to Puerto Rico that has a quality name that it makes sense to fight. Other than us, what are they going to bring a 47 up to 54? I mean, it got to make sense. Ortiz is already locked up. He got a fight coming up. Boots got a fight coming up. Fedora got a fight coming up. All of the top dogs, big names, they got fights coming up. If you want to defend your title this year, put it on against another young gun. Both of y'all young. It don't hurt neither one of y'all career taking this fight. I think it's reminiscent of Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns. The first time they fought, they was 23 and 25. And as we see, it didn't hurt neither one of their careers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think Xander is a fearful fighter. I think Shawty is one of those young guns that I mentioned before, like that Dula Masons and all those young fighters. If it's something that he wanted to happen, it'll happen. I know we're a dangerous fight. It'll be puncher versus boxer. But I promise you this: if he took the fight, if we knock him out, which I think we would, we definitely want to fight him again. It wouldn't be no one and done, or we trying to skate out with a belt. We want to make sure the fans know we're definitively the better of the two. And the only way you find that out is for us to do it in the ring, not on, his fans saying he'll beat him, our fans saying we'll beat him. Put it in the ring.
Yeah. It's all about, proving it in the ring. And, as I was mentioning in an earlier conversation and things like that, I had seen Xander Zayas live multiple times there, over in New York City. When he fought in the theater at Madison Square Garden, particularly his last fight where he did win that WBO title. And as you mentioned, right after that, they were talking about having that defense over in Puerto Rico, where, he's from, where he's based at, San Juan and everything. So it's like, hey, why not have a fight with Jalil Major Hackett for, that title defense?
I mean, who else can you think he's going to get that is available right in the fight that gives you what you consider like the Turkish say a 50-50 fight? Now, if you're looking for a 60-40, a 70-30, 80-20, you can find that. But the Puerto Rican fan base and the history that they have with boxing, they've already showed you they're not going for that. You come to Puerto Rico to defend the title, they want to see you defend the title.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. And that's the thing about it is, as Jalil was saying after his win, that he had against Elijah Vines last Thursday, man, he wants to smoke with all the champions. It don't matter who it is. So Xander Zayas is one of them, and he's there open, there with that WBO title. And as you mentioned, when you have Sebastian Fundora facing Keith Thurman on October 25th, right? When you got the WBC interim champion there in Virgil Ortiz Jr. facing Erickson Lubin, over in Dallas, the Texas area. When you got, Bruce Ennis in a fight against Luis Molina on October 11th. Like, all of these champions and top guys are booked. So who else can Xander Zayas fight?
What they going to do? They're going to bring up a small 147 Santillan and try and, sell that to the Puerto Rican fight base like that was a dangerous fight. Come on, man. The Puerto Rican fans, they don't go, one thing about their boxing, they know it, and they don't go for BS when they come to their fights. When you come to Puerto Rico, you got to fight. When we went to Puerto Rico, them fans was welcoming to us. They was like, they know Jalil will fight. Whether we like the outcome of what happened or not, we cool with it. We willing to go back. Everything that they could possibly ask for to fight Xander, we have no problem giving them. Whatever it takes to get him in the ring, we gonna do that. And they know what it is. They know, hey, we do stuff that make logical sense. We do stuff that done the right way. Then we can make fights happen. We ain't telling them, oh, you ain't gonna do it if you don't do this or do that. We say we'll go to Puerto Rico and we'll go to New York and we will upset their apple cart.
Yeah. The thing is, Zayas has had a number of those fights that have been at the theater in Madison Square Garden, or he's had a fight there in the main building at Madison Square Garden. And, he's been saying, hey, either, having a fight at Puerto Rico or having a fight in the big building. That's what he wants to do. But Jalil is willing to, fight him in either one of those venues at any time.
Well, we could make it happen. We can make it happen with no question. You talk to people you seen Jalil fight. Jalil has done good when it came to his portion of being able to help sell a fight. It ain't like he's without a fan base. He has an excellent fan base. And we don't mind going to either city. Like I said, I don't mince words about it. I think Xander is an excellent, amazing young gun boxer. But I think when it comes to putting him in the ring with Jalil, I'm 90% sure that it'll be over before the 8th round. And the reason I say 90%, because that other 10% might be before the 8th round. And I hope the fans get to talking about it. I hope the fans say, I don't know what Jalil and them thinking. I hope our fans say we'll do it. There is no good or bad media out of it as long as it's media saying, let's make the fight happen.
Right. That's what it's all about. It's about making that fight happen. Because, if they're saying that they want to have that defense, like, say, for example, that defense over in Puerto Rico, right? And it's like a voluntary defense or whatever it is, right? You ain't going to have Xander Zayas fighting no Josh Kelly or no, freaking Adrian Sasso. I'm looking at the rankings right now or like a Giovanni Santillan. Like, come on, Santillan was there, as you mentioned, like 147. So you bringing up somebody at 147 to be in the rankings to face the WBO champion? You know,
and once again, it's a voluntary defense. If they're going to bring somebody that's not ranked from the weight class, let's say we're going to fight him, or they try and get him ranked at the last minute for it to be a fight, well, let's fight Jalil. Where's the excuse? Where's the excuse?
You know what I'm saying? I don't see like what else could be out there, man. Because the thing about it is like you said, like you got someone in Jalil Hackett there, 22 years old, just coming off of his win there against Elijah Vines there on Thursday, there where he got that TKO victory and whatnot. So he's just like, hey man, I'm right back in the mix, and hey, I want it with a guy like a Xander Zayas. Yeah, he's a young champion, but hey, I don't care. I want to be able to say that I'm there up there with the top guys at 154, starting with Xander Zayas.
And once again, I don't think it hurts either one of their careers. If you look at it, Xander has everything in his favor. It's going to be in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. They can pick his daddy to be the judge. They can pick his grandma, his mama, and his aunt to be the officials. We already know everything is stacked against us, so we got to knock him out. He has to be knocked out. And we're not complaining if he win and it's a decision. I don't want to hear nobody including us. Man, they robbed us. We beat them. We're going in knowing we have to be like Marvin Hagler when he beat Mitchell. He went over there knowing he had to knock him out, and Marvin knocked him out. We're going to Puerto Rico or New York knowing we have to knock Xander out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if you're not prepared for a war, then that's not my fault. They ask us, what would your game plan be fighting Xander? Simple. If you watch Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns, if you watch the way Chavez has meticulously walked people down, you saw the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
You interviewed Jalil before the 54 fight. You interviewed him. What did Jalil tell you? If you're not giving me a veteran, none of these young fighters got the moxie to stay in there, cannot get knocked out by me.
Yep.
He told you, what did he tell you in the interview? He said, I'm going to get Vines out of there. I'm going to get him out of there in 4. I said, I'm looking at 6, maybe 7 rounds. Jalil said, why you think it's going that far? He got him out of there in the 3rd.
Yep. Knocked him down in the 2nd and then took him out in the 3rd. Like, it was just like levels, man, levels. And the joint with that last knockdown, it's like, how they say, you reach, I teach. That's what Elijah Vines did. He reached and then bloop, bloop, and put him down again. You know what I'm saying?
Look here, for all the commentators, for all the naysayers, for all the people who try to rip things to be in the situation they want them to be, Jalil's new tattoo, he said, man, I got to embrace who I was, who I am, who I be. He's always had a Mexican style of fighting as an amateur coming up. He's just embracing it now. Y'all say I get hit too much. He said, cool. When Mexican fighters get hit, what do they say? That's moxie. That's
a warrior.
That's bravado.
That's a warrior.
Will give us the same thing because we're going to go in there and do the same thing to him that the favorites did, the Chavez, the Marvin Haglers. We're going to walk him down, beat him up. And as soon as we take his title, we're going to let them know, hey, brother, you ain't got to wait 60 months unless he's completely done, which I think he might be. Then guess what? We want to fight him again. We'll be the champion hunting him down.
Yeah. Yep. That's the thing about it is it's about, taking those challenges and everything like that. And it's always been like that, for Jalil coming up, whether it was at 147 or now at 154 pounds. So, this ain't no different.
What did the commentator say? What did the commentator say at this fight? Go back and watch it. He said Jalil has been matched tough. He hasn't been given the cupcake schedule. He ain't given the dudes that was going to lay down. When Eddie Hearn spoke about him on the stage, he said Jalil Hackett does not want layups. We want fights.
Yep.
Xander is a great fight. We'll fight him. I think it's the best and the most evenly and fairest marked fight between two athletes at this stage of boxing that you can make at 154 pounds.
Like I don't see like what other matchup you could do at this point at 154 that like kind of like is a good matchup like that. You know what I mean?
Man, look, one of my good buddies, I don't know if you heard it somewhere or whatever. Hey man, we heard Jalil Hackett, would like to fight you. And I think Xander's response was, nah, I don't want that. And when I heard that, I wanted to make it definitively clear. Yes, we do. Yes, we want it. And we want it sooner than later. We don't have to let this fester. He don't have a dance partner. Unless Top Rank go find a duck or find a less qualified fighter, then guess what? What are you looking at? Don't bring a 35-year-old with a has-been name just to say it look good. Find somebody you gotta beat.
Yeah.
That's all we say.
Yep. That's the thing about it. And I say like, if they willing to make that fight, just go ahead and do it. I mean, you got someone there in Zayas that, he would be fighting within like a 5-month period or something like that if they're gonna try to set it up for December. And Jalil Hackett, just getting in the mix. Remember, it took 9 months for this particular fight because of course that rematch didn't happen because of the injury that happened, a couple days before the rematch with Vasquez. But here he is. He came back from that, recovered from that injury, and it was a really serious injury, and then still was able to do what he did there against Elijah Vines, who was an undefeated fighter that had, 7 KOs and the 8 wins that he did have, and as, Jalil was saying in the interview, he's like, listen, I see Elijah Vines, he's there 8-0, 7 KOs, so I can't, be slipping against him. And that's what he was doing there.
Like we just said, we fought one guy, now let's fight. We fought Pete Dawson. And once again, Pete Dawson is a quality fighter who just to come off of a 12-round decision loss to Conor Ben, who's getting ready to fight a rematch against Chris Eubanks that might have been fight of the year.
Yep.
Like I said, we coming off a real fight. We coming off our last 4 real fights. And now it's time for the young guns that Jalil coined when he first turned pro to start showing boxing. We going back to what it was. We not stuck in, I gotta stay undefeated even if it's against less guys so people can say that I'm good. I want to beat good fighters for people to say, no, I'm good.
Yep. That's the aim right there with that is that you want to like have those big challenges there, particularly early in your career. You know what I'm saying? Like I go back to like say for example the heavyweight bout between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. Both of them had like about 12 or 13 fights under their belt, but they were willing to face each other and say, okay, we want to see where we're at this point of our career to say, okay, we gonna be ready for like a world title shot or these big fights, at the heavyweight division at the time. And you had Joe Joyce that was able to get the win, and yeah, he did fall short against someone like Jalil Zayas, but look at what it did for Daniel Dubois. He came back from that and the Usyk fight in order to be a world champion himself and get a knockout over Anthony Joshua. So yeah, that's the thing about it with like having a loss early in their career. It doesn't define your whole career.
Man, like I said, we never told nobody we was looking to be undefeated. We said we wanted to be in the best fights. And if they want to fight, and they want a real fight to take to Puerto Rico or New York, get a Puerto Rican something to really scream and holler about, fight us. Don't bring up a small 47 or a 35-year-old fighter trying to snatch a quick W and make these people scream like you the next coming of Tito Trinidad. If you the next coming of Tito Trinidad for everybody. If we said this same conversation to Tito Trinidad would have been telling his team make this fight happen in December.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. Because he was willing to challenge all of those guys, man. He didn't really care. You know what I mean? Or someone like like a Shane Mosley or somebody like a Sean Porter who fought like everybody in their division. You know what I mean? So that was the thing about it. You know, we fought everybody in their division because they knew that they had to, challenge those big fighters in order to get the notoriety. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter like what the result was going to be, as long as either you made it a very good fight, and whether you won or lost, you made it a good fight. And that's the thing about it, because as you said, here early in the conversation, with Jalil Hackett now, taking that, old nickname there that he had before, the Black Mexican, right? Like, Mexican fighters, they get praised for being in these all action fights, or, scrapping it out and not caring what happens or whatever it is. So how come, our people don't get the same praise or something like that? You don't necessarily have to be like a boxer 100%. You know what I mean?
We're not confined to a certain style based on our nationality. When Jalil was growing up, I showed him Chavez and I showed him Marvin Hagler more than anybody, because I like their tenacious way of fighting. I like the way that they say, hey, sometimes I got to get hit to get the hit I want. And they dominated. Period, point blank. So a lot of the amateurs, a lot of the other young black fighters and some of the coaches used to be like, man, you fight like a Mexican. When we sparred, trained, or anything with the Mexican fighters, they would tell us, man, that's a badge of honor.
Yeah.
For a black kid to be said to fight like a Mexican. And Jalil took it as that. And so if that's what he wants to be, and that's what he wants to be seen as a vision, then I told him, be you. Because if you think you can deal with him and you can deal with the onslaught, then guess what? You're going to have to show somebody. You can't tell fans. I'm talking about real fans. I'm not talking about fans who don't follow the sports. Them fans in Puerto Rico, they follow the sport of boxing. Yeah. You can't tell real fans that I'm not taking this fight because he's not ready. When the guy's selling you, I'm ready and willing now. Yeah. They don't buy that shit.
Yep, that's the thing. It's like when you got somebody that's willing to take any challenge or ready for any challenge, then it really doesn't matter like what they feel like the result could be. You know what I mean? That's the thing about it. I think nowadays with boxing is that there's a lot of boxers that kind of like care what the result is going to be. Even if they win, if it's not like a knockout or something like that, then they kind of are kind of semi-reluctant or something to actually go forward with the fight. You know what I mean? But if you have a fighter that is just willing to take on a challenge, win or lose, then that's a whole different story. And it makes for, them to be more respected, in the boxing game by doing that. You know what I mean?
Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Xander and his team. He has a great team. He got a great promoter. I think, Bob Rum has shown in his history of boxing, he can make Casper the Friendly Ghost look like the Incredible Hulk. But at the end of the day, that Friendly Ghost at some point has to show he's the Incredible Hulk. And it ain't about winning or losing, if you want to call it that. But then Puerto Rican fans, you're not going to take just trap to Puerto Rico and they go for it. You gotta fight somebody. Shit, Sugar Matias full payroll in Puerto Rico. He had to bring somebody to fight there.
Yeah.
They're not going for BS down there.
Yep.
And them fighters down in Puerto Rico, the real boxing fans, when Trinidad was fighting, they didn't have to, but they required Trinidad to fight the best. And Trinidad gave him what they wanted. That's why he is a legend. That's why he is folklore down there. If you want to reach that status, you got to do it when the opportunities are there. Don't wait till both of us turn 26, 27. Don't hope you go say that you man get Jalil to fight this person. Hopefully he loses. It don't have to happen. You want us to lose. You make us lose by beating us.
Yep. And you kind of you mentioning that kind of reminds me of like how they're trying to make that fight between like say for example Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, and it's like they're like, oh, let's let it marinate, let's let it build, let do this and that, instead of like having it when they were both at 147 pounds. Like this would be an example of where you say, hey, let's just strike it, let's do it right now. You know what I mean? Like not wait, not have anything build up, not have any other fights in between and nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So let's just do it right now. Why not?
I don't see no reason. Like I said, I would say a lot of times that they wanted some of those fights, maybe even the Boots or Ortiz, both of them was kind of locked in different situations with other fighters or situations where they couldn't quite get it to match up with the calendar. But that's not the issue here. Xander don't have no dance partner. All the big names are tied up. He wants to defend before the end of this year. He wants to defend in Puerto Rico or New York. And we saying yes to all of the variables.
Yeah.
The only thing I can see is they thinking, why is he so eager to say yes? And he's not giving you no outrageous money amounts or any of that, because we know we must and will knock Xander Zayas out. After we knock him out, we wait for them to call us for a rematch. After the rematch, then hey, we'll see where we are. Like I said, we knock him out twice. We have no problem fighting him again if it's a good enough fight. But one thing I know, when Jalil knock you out once, he can knock you out multiple times. He always punched your butt.
Yep. There you go. You know what I'm saying? And he's, as I said, man, I'm at, give you a call here, and you're at the gym, and right back at the gym, like you were saying after the fight. And well, he said it before the fight. He said, listen, after this fight, I will fly back the next day, and then a couple of days after, I'll be right back in the gym. And that's exactly what's going on right now. You know what I mean? Right back in the gym.
If they try to wait till October 15th and say, hey, you want to fight? They won't catch us out of shape. We'll be like, yeah. You won't catch us out of shape. We'll be ready. All they got is to come and say, hey, you and Xander will fight. Whatever the details that they want to send, they know our team. Send it to them. We've already told our team. Unless they ask the motherfucker to do more of the wrestling for the title, everything else we're saying yes to.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, like staying right there in the gym. Like Brother Jalil's like either on the treadmill or like in the ring right now.
Yeah, we back on the grind. I think Jalil is more focused with the potential of possibly being able to get this fight than anything. We're focused on it. Yeah. If we don't get the fight, nobody will say it was a lack of us trying, and we'll take the next thing that they put in front of us. But don't put this in a situation where your only safe way out is hoping we lose. Please let somebody else get him before we get to me. Don't go to the back bedroom and hide in the closet and hope we kill everybody else in the other bedroom before we get to you.
Word. Now I wanted to go back to that fight there against Elijah Vines. After the first round, you pretty much seen Jalil kind of like get the hang of what Vines was doing. Because for me, watching it there, I was there live and everything like that. Vines was trying to focus on landing the right hand, basically. You know, and after Jalil kind of like seeing that, I think that he kept his distance a little bit, and then seeing the patterns there from Elijah Vines and was able to keep up with those patterns. And then that speed just overwhelmed Elijah Vines there starting in the second round. And then the third round, it was like all over by that point. So like after that first round when you were, seeing what Elijah Vines was doing, did you like kind of tell Jalil that, hey, Vines is basically doing this. He's just looking for that right hand. So just, either keep the left hand up or, just try to keep a good distance from him.
It was more or less running hot. A lot of fighters, they can fight if you make gentlemen's agreements with them. And what I mean by that, you ever watch a fight and both fighters come running out the corner, but then they stop in the middle of the ring?
Yeah.
I call that a gentleman's agreement. They've agreed that we're not going to make this a fight. With us, we go back, if you saw Shaka Zulu when he fought the Brits, they weren't used to somebody not stopping at a certain point and shooting. They ran straight to him in full attack. We wanted to make sure we ran Elijah Vines real hot, and then once his engine ran hot, when we hit him with something that made sense, then start looking to pick it up. The first round went according to what we wanted. When Jalil came back to the corner, I told him, I said, hey, don't pick up the power, just more punches. And when he picked up the punch put out, that made Elijah Vines have to work at a speed that 90% of fighters have not worked at. And then when Jalil started opening the hook in the second round, it was placed. Then when we came out for the third round, we said we got Elijah running hot. So we got his mind running faster than he wanted to. Mm-hmm. Now we'll start looking for the uppercut because he's going to overshoot punches.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. He started overshooting punches, and the uppercut showed itself.
Yep. Because I seen that, landing an uppercut first, like when Elijah Vines was through the ropes. And then, and as I said there, with that knockdown that happened in the third round was where, Vines overshot. And then Jalil just caught him with the uppercut and put down Elijah Vines there again. And that was, a wrap after that, with Thomas Taylor stopping that fight. So that, was, great overall performance there from Jalil Hackett. And, after the fight, you see, like a lot of that emotion that, Jalil had, going from, as I would say, like March 12th or March 13th or whatever it is, after, suffering that injury and then just getting back to this point. That was the thing. It was like, listen, I want to get back in the ring and show y'all how talented I am, because y'all just seem to write me off after the one fight that I had where it was just a close decision. It was a close decision that was very disputable, you know what I'm saying? And then after being set up for a rematch, it's like, I get injured and now y'all just saying that I ain't this and I ain't that. You know what I mean? So having that performance there kind of like was that redemption that I was talking to him about in our interview before he went over to Vegas for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, people can say one thing because it sounds good, but their actions don't correlate. Jalil took the loss. Hey, it is what it is. I thought we did enough to win. But for Jalil's status of fighter, you shouldn't have been in a situation where you do just enough. I think he realized the 147 division was a weight class that he just couldn't make the weight anymore. And we moved up. But even with that, you ain't hear none of these young dudes call Jalil out. Not one. Mm-hmm. They whisper his name like he a motherfucker, like he Baba Yaga from a movie.
Yeah.
He's like, they don't want the smoke for real. When I say they, I mean the generation that he came from. But I think the upper echelon, like the Xander Zayases, I thought that those were the type of dudes that these was the type of challenges they was looking for to solidify themselves as a great fighter.
Yeah. As well as it, like, I mean, you see like some of these other guys that are, like around that same age range, but they don't, like you said, they don't have the fights that Jalil has, at this point. So it's almost like really, what kind of like pointless or something like that to kind of like even mention it. Like, for example, the week before Jalil Hackett had the fight, right? They had the fights over here in the DC area, and you had someone there at around that 154-pound range that fought someone at 23-7, but like they ain't at the same level of sorts. You know what I mean? So if you had someone like Elijah Flores, that's out there that has around that same record, that wouldn't necessarily work for Jalil Hackett at this point.
I mean, like I said, I watched those fights. A lot of good youngins from where I'm from, they're still on there. I'm proud of them. Like I said, I'm not looking to fight the guys that's from my neighborhood or from my city. We all trying to get to the pay dog. If we both get to the pay dog, then the fight, it comes with a fight. But I'm looking at the guys who are already there, who are from our generation.
Yeah.
When you think about fights, Fandora, Ortiz, the Charlos, Crawford, Spence, Boots, them dudes ain't looking to fight us or fight. Really, if you take the belt out of the equation, they ain't looking to fight us either. Them dudes got guaranteed purses, 4 million, 5 million, 7 million. They not getting that right now.
Yep.
Once again, you got the belt. But now we got to put the money behind it with the names and the fights to get the guaranteed purses.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to put that off and start it right now, we should be fighting Xander Zayas in December.
Yep. I mean, that guy's, around the same age range. You got, what was it? Walsh, they just fought, Vargas, he's around the same age range too, 24 years old.
Yeah, Elijah Flores is young too.
Yep.
So it's time for these young fighters of our generation, the ones that Jalil called the so-called young guns.
Mm-hmm.
We still amateurs, champ. We ain't duck no smoke. None of them duck no smoke. Don't get to the pros unless somebody convince you to be less than what you was in the amateurs. Men grow up, they don't grow down.
Yeah.
Like I said, if we the only ones that grew up, then guess what? We are the black Mexicans. Because the Mexicans, once they grow up, they grown. They don't return to little boy age.
Yep. That's fact.
Canelo started his grown man shit at 15, and he ain't went back since. Don't fast track nobody if you want to slam on brakes when you get a belt.
Yeah,
that's the thing. When Fernando Vargas was in the same situation, he was a warrior. He fought Trinidad, he fought De La Hoya, he fought everybody as a young fighter.
Fought Ricky Wright.
Yeah, we fought him as a young fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Every candle ain't meant to burn forever. Some of them are a short flame, but they make a mighty fire. If that's the situation that God has put my son's course into, while we burning, we gonna burn shit down.
Yep. There you go. And that's the thing there that you've been saying there with Jalil Hackett ever since his pro debut or whatever it is, man. Because as many times as I've talked with you and as many times as I've talked with Jalil, he's been in there in the mix with a lot of these guys that either have been world champions or like highly notable in the boxing game that are very experienced. So a lot of them already know the talent that Jalil Hackett has. So that's the thing about facing these guys that are around or the top of 154-pound division right now. That Jalil Hackett would have no problem facing any of those guys because he knows that he can hang with those guys, all of them.
The sport is called prize fighting. The only thing we ask about is the prize. And the great ones, which my son is trying to be, sometimes you take a smaller prize for the bigger reward. The bigger reward is that WBO title, not the check.
And that's the thing about, if they're going to have Xander Zayas fighting in Puerto Rico, you know that the purse ain't going to be that large. It won't be as large as like fighting over at Madison Square Garden, It won't be as big as fighting like anywhere in Vegas or something like that. So, as we were mentioning earlier, a number of these other so-called contenders or whatever it is, they're 154 that can have a shot to fight for that WBO title. They ain't gonna go for it because the money isn't what they would like for it to to be. So, all right, if they ain't gonna take it, then why not have Jalil Hackett step up and do it?
And that's why I'm glad people like yourself and boxing media is willing to make the conversation time for us, Jalil and our team, so that we can let it be known way ahead of time that we'll fight him, so they don't get to talking about, well, we couldn't get this guy to fight us, we couldn't get this guy, so that's the reason why we, got this guy to fight us. Nah, we right here. We will fight him. And on top of fighting him, we will knock him out.
There you go, man. So, of course, as always, man, you know how it is. When the Boxing Source is willing to chop it up with you, man. Always thankful for you to stop and take the time to do that. As you say, y'all always there, at the gym there, Thump Yard. Shout out to the Thump Yard out there. And once we get updates, and we're gonna continue to pursue this thing here with Jalil Hackett and Xander Zayas. And once we get some updates on that, man, just let us know.
And for all y'all that see Xander in public, see Xander in private, see his team, ask him one question. Other than the bullshit answers of he ain't got enough fights or that craziness, why you really want to fight him? Why you would tell us why you really want to fight him? And for all the media that been hitting us up, saying, hey, we want to give you your time to speak because we think that's a good fight, put the spotlight on him. If these fans in the media are requiring fighters to fight real fights, they will fight real fights. Like I said, I'll re-put it. I don't give Xander scared. But if he wants to fight and he don't have the ability to get none of the big names because they're all tied up, tell your team send us a contract. Let us sign it. Put a date out. And let's get it on like Leonard the Hearns did back in the day.
There you go. So, hey Xander, you see what's up. You see what Coach Bernard Hackett said. You hear what Jalil Hackett said. He wants that fight. So, hey, basically up to you and your part. On that, man. So, big thanks once again, Coach Bernard, for chopping up here on the Boxing Source Midweek Report. And I'll catch up with you later on.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for everything.
All right, no doubt, my dude.
Have a good one.
All right. So there it is. Coach Bernard Hackett, had that conversation, extensive conversation. There, they want that fight with the WBO super welterweight, or as the WBO says, junior middleweight champion, Xander Zayas, right? Of course, as I mentioned, I was there for Jalil Hackett's last fight there, when it was Underdog Series there, presented by The Ring, when he had his stoppage win over Elijah Vines. I was also in attendance for Xander Zayas' win that he had against Jorge Garcia Perez at the theater at Madison Square Garden for him to win that WBO title. And being there in attendance, followed up with Xander Zayas after that win. And they said, hey, they want to have him defend that title over in Puerto Rico. Yes, the World Boxing Organization is based in Puerto Rico. Yes, Top Rank has kind of like set up a number of fights there involving fighters that have held the WBO world title in different weight classes, right? So given what could be happening here, I would say over the next couple of days or so, with the World Boxing Organization, they should be able to have their updated ratings. You know what I mean? Because as of right now, what I would say, if I'm able to, go ahead and share these ratings real quick that they have for the 154-pound division, right? This is what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the WBO here in this sense, right? Because there you're going to have Josh Kelly. They're currently at number one, right? Josh Kelly is there at number one. Jerron Boots Ennis there at number two. Eric Salubin, number three. Sorry, Boachuk there at number four. Jesus Ramos there at number five. Now, real quick, as I was mentioned there in the conversation with Coach Bernard Hackett, Josh Kelly is not going to be fighting Xander Zayas for that WBO title in Puerto Rico, because if he's, I guess, declining fights with Jerron Boots Ennis over in Philadelphia, then he's likely going to decline a fight with Xander Zayas over in Puerto Rico. Actually, they might see about having him facing back on for the IBF belt, but we shall see. But with Josh Kelly, getting those Riyadh season checks or whatever it is, fighting in Ismail Davies, at Wembley Stadium or something like that, then a fight with Xander Zayas, nah, he ain't gonna do that without good enough pay. You got Boots Ennis, of course, has his fight coming up October 11th at Wells Fargo Center or whatever. I think they recently changed the name of that venue over there in Philadelphia, so he has that. Eric Salubin is facing Virgil Ortiz Jr. Sergey Boachuk, well, you seen what happened with Sergey Boachuk, all right? Jesus Ramos got a fight lined up at 160 pounds. You got Keith Thurman facing Sebastian Fundora. You got Madrimov that's out there. Giovanni Santillan, you know what I mean? Charles Conwell, of course, a former contender. He did lose, to Jorge Garcia Perez, which set up that fight between Zayas and Perez, right? Julian Vogel is like, whatever or whatnot. So I can't necessarily say what to make out of that. Callum Walsh is there at number 14. So we got to see where he's gonna, be at in these new updated rankings there, you know what I'm saying, because of his win over Fernando Vargas Jr. That happened, so we got to see how that, basically turns out there. Once they get their updated rankings, I think it's going to be coming in within probably either Saturday or Monday, right? Now, also, you got this thing here with the WBC, right? Well, the WBC had recently updated their rankings, okay? They recently updated their rankings. I'm going to see here if we could go ahead and get this here because, of course, you had the brand new super middleweight champion be crowned on September 13th, okay? So, what I'm going to do here, I was going to, skip over real quick because we got to get right into this thing here. So I'm going to share it instead. So we got this thing here going down in the super middleweight division. They just recently updated it with Terrence Crawford being the new, not only the WBC, but the new undisputed super middleweight champion. Now, they do still have an interim champion in Christian and Billy that had the fight against Lester Martinez there on that same day. Lester Martinez won that fight, man. I don't know. I don't know how y'all scored it or what y'all looked at. But listen, Lester Martinez was serving uppercut sandwiches pretty much the whole fight. You know what I mean? And I just didn't think that Christian and Billy really had much of an answer for those power shots that Lester Martinez was landing. And I don't see like how you could have scored it either like even or in favor of Christian and Billy. I just felt like Lester Martinez won that, but yet it ended up being a draw. So with that being said, you got Billy still as the interim champion there in that particular weight class. They did move Canelo Alvarez to the number one spot. You have Hamza Shiraz there at number two. Jaime Munguia there, of course, lost to Canelo Alvarez last year, May of last year. You know, so you do have that. Lester Martinez, who I mentioned. Osley Iglesias there at number five. That had the recent win there for the IBF Eliminator. So you got Iglesias is going to be basically number one in the IBF after his stoppage win over Vladimir Shishkin. You have Jermall Charlo there at number six, which is interesting. There maybe that could set up something here later on down the line of who he could basically be facing. You know what I mean? And with that being said, you got Diego Pacheco there at number eight, Beck Melakuziev there at number nine, Caleb Plant there at number 12. Jermall Charlo at number six, Caleb Plant at number 12. Maybe, just maybe, they could have something there set up. You know what I mean? So we got that thing there, reference to all that. Shout out Z Pacino. He says, yeah, Lester get some good work off the ropes. Yeah, I'm telling you. Like the thing with Christian and Billy, man, is that he's there being an offensive fighter, just coming forward, leaning forward, and things like that. But if you have like any type of defense and you could slip and move or whatever, then you could get him. In that fight that they had at Allegiant Stadium, it was pretty good action, at least in the second half of the fight. But the first half of the fight, I felt like it was more or less Martinez getting the majority of those rounds, right? So that's one. Number two, right? And this was kind of strange to me, right? You have Christian and Billy as the WBC interim champion, right? So if the WBC interim champion is in a fight, the fight should be scheduled for 12 rounds. So how was this particular fight between Christian and Billy and Lester Martinez a 10-round bout? It should have been a 12-round bout. And here you have this fight end up being a split draw. Okay? Where one judge gave 6 rounds in favor of Christian and Billy, while another judge gave 7 rounds in favor of Lester Martinez, and then Glenn Feldman had it 5 rounds to 5. Right? But how are you going to have that be a 10-round bout when you have an interim world title on the line? That I don't know how or who agreed to all of that or whatever. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, see, yeah, that's why I was like, yo, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. This particular fight right here is a 10-round bout, and I don't know, man. And then the other thing too, of course, with the main card, you had that Muhammad Alakel fight against Travis Crawford or whatever it is. Then you had this fight, and then you had Callum versus Fernando Vargas Jr. And all 3 of those things went 10 rounds. Oh my God! I'm telling you, I'm still like, oh God, that was a struggle to go through, man. That was a struggle to get through in order to get to the main event. You know what I'm saying? But man, it was crazy. But yeah, you kind of see those super middleweight rankings. They, of course, recently updated with Terrence Crawford becoming the new undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. You still have Christian and Billy as the interim champion, given that result between him and Lester Martinez is a draw. You got Canelo pretty much like getting that spot of number one, where Terrence Crawford, I think, was at number one before they had the fight on September 13th. And Hamza Shiraz there at number 2. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here with the particular fight between Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, because one, you have that potential rematch that's out there, and then two, with Terrence Crawford, there's like some options that have been, put out there. I kind of like mentioned it in the Boxing Source podcast that someone put out there: Terrence Crawford versus David Benavidez. That's crazy. I did also have the idea of maybe Terrence Crawford waiting it out. You know what I'm saying? If he's going to even try to go compete in the light heavyweight division, then that the WBC champion there and David Benavidez not only have his fight there on November 22nd of there, against Anthony Yard. But if he wins that, then he should have the fight there against Dimitri Bivol for the undisputed championships, and then wait it out to see if they'll fight the winner. And remember, this is Terrence Crawford. He's had one fight a year every single year since 2019. So hey, he's had his fight this year against Canelo. You're not going to see him again this year. So we got to wait until next year, pretty much around this time, I would say, for him to have his next fight. By that time, you already have, you already have David Benavidez fight. You had Dimitri Bivol, I guess, have his mandatory defense after, having a back injury or and then they could fight each other there, Benavidez and Bivol. And then I guess if, they kind of mention it, then maybe you can fight him, but that's, the whole just there with the super middleweight division. You know what I mean? Hey, don't forget the Franklin fight. Hey, listen, man. By the time I got there, okay, the fight, that rematch was basically happening, man. So I didn't watch, the whole thing with Reito Susumi. I didn't watch, Marco Verde. I didn't watch, the Ivan Disco Jermaine Franklin fight. I didn't watch none of that. I wasn't there to watch that. By the time I got there, you had the Sorry Boachuk Brandon Adams rematch going on. So yeah, I didn't get there until about right at around 6 p.m. Local time, Pacific time, or 9 p.m. Eastern time. So all of those prelim fights, I wasn't there to watch it. Nope, I wasn't. You know what I mean? So yeah, I did not get through that fight, but hey, Jermaine Franklin ended up getting that win, man, and yeah, up to this point, I still I still haven't watched that fight either. I'm sorry, I haven't watched that fight. All right, so yeah, you got that whole thing there with the super middleweight division. I wanted to really go up real quick to heavyweight division, of course. Alexander Usyk, undisputed champion. Agi Kabayel, interim champion. You got Lawrence Okoli at number one, Daniel Dubois at number two with this loss to Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua at number three, and Moses Itama at number four. Now, I think with the last rankings that they had, that Moses Itama was at number 11. At number 11 in the WBC rankings. Now he's at number 4, of course, with his first round knockout win over Dylan White. So with him being at number 4, that opens up a number of challenges out there for Moses Itama, right? One of my guys here that's been a guest on either the Boxing Source podcast or the Midweek Report has suggested that Moses Itama should get in the ring with the now ranked number 3 fighter there, former world champion Anthony Joshua. I don't know if that's going to happen. You might see Moses Itama versus Daniel Dubois. That might be more of a possibility. But, Itama versus Joshua, nope, that ain't going to happen. You can see that there, the top 5. You got Philip Hergovich there at number 5, Jogba at number 6, Piccoli, Sanchez, or whatever it is. So looks like they were trying to have a rematch between Effet Jogba and Frank Sanchez. And I don't know about all that. We've heard something about Deontay Wilder potentially facing Andy Ruiz Jr. There in the heavyweight division. So it makes that to be pretty interesting. You know what I'm saying? You got Bridgeweight. We try to go through that. Cruiserweight. You got Badu Jack. What is it? He had like recent defense. So let's see what else we could try to go through. Light heavyweight, real quick. David Benavidez, as I mentioned, the champion there, light heavyweight. Viterbi there at number one. That's going to have a fight on that same card, November 22nd. Like, come on, y'all could have had Benavidez and Viterbi fight each other. Hey, we still got time. Listen, there's more than 2 months between now and November 22nd. Okay, y'all get pay some money or something like that, and have Anthony Yard. You know what I'm saying? You could have Anthony Yard step off to the side or something like that. You know what I mean? You could have him step off to the side, and you could have what was it that they got Viterbi fighting? Dion Nicholson. You could have Dion Nicholson stepping off to the side, right? And you could have Yard and Nicholson fight each other, while you could have David Benavidez against Artur Beterbiev here, man. Why not? Okay, we need to. That should be the fight that should headline Ring 4 on November 22nd. David Benavidez versus Artur Beterbiev, and then guess what? Whoever wins that fight, there you get Dimitri Bivol. Why not? But hey, is what it is on that front, right? But that's the thing there with the light heavyweight rankings. Real quick, I mean, you got David Morrell there, number 2, Alexander Gvozdyk at number 3, Anthony Yard at number 4, Joshua Arce at number 5. The David Morrell and Callum Smith, we haven't had any updates on that quite yet, so we'll see how that goes. Did talk about the whole thing there with the super middleweight division. Middleweight, just being honest with y'all, it's the middleweight division. Middleweight division ain't nothing much. Now, they did have Jesus Ramos Jr. up there now at number 5. He's going to be facing Shane Mosley Jr. for the interim WBC belt in the middleweight division. That is, slated there for that October 25th there. That was headlined by Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman for Fundora's WBC super welterweight title. Okay. So that should make for an interesting bout between Jesus Ramos and Shane Mosley Jr. Of course, Jesus Ramos had been competing at the 154-pound division for some time. He did have one fight above 154 there against Jason Rosario, before going down to 154 for his following fight. But him being there at 160, at least right now, kind of makes sense because I just didn't see him being at 154 for that long. As I mentioned there with Sebastian Fundora being the champion at 154, Virgil Ortiz is the interim champion. You got Jerron Ennis there ranked at number 1 currently. Virgil Ortiz will be facing number 5, Erickson Lubin. You got Sebastian Fundora facing number 3, Keith Thurman. Okay, Callum Walsh, you just recently defeated, Fernando Vargas Jr. Okay, so you got that. Sorry, Boachuk lost to Brandon Adams. Brandon Adams there is at number 6, with Boachuk at number 8. Luis Lima will be facing Jerron Ennis there, so you got number 1 versus number 10, so to speak. Tim Tszyu recently had some news out there. Shout out to Brunch Boxing. Says that Tim Tszyu is going to be restructuring his team out there. So we got that. Charles Conwell at number 13, Josh Kelly at number 14. And Josh Kelly ain't really caring about all that because he's a top contender at the WBO and pretty much the IBF ranking. So he's not really going to be pursuing the thing there with the WBC anytime soon. And you got Andreas Kasarakis, who does have a win over Brandon Adams there at number 15. But I think Kasarakis is kind of highly rated there in the WBA, so I don't think he's really worried about that either. Welterweight, you got Mario Barrios as a champ. Manny Pacquiao still there at number 1. I don't know if it's going to be a rematch or anything like that. Hope not. Conor Ben's there at number 4 at welterweight, even though he's having a rematch against Chris Eubank Jr. There you go. You got Jack Catterall there at number 7. Yeah, I don't know what to make about these rankings here either. I really don't. Like, just being honest with you, I really don't know what to make of that. I see, we have other things here that's going down when it comes to the rankings here with the WBC. Subriel Matias there as the world champion there at super lightweight. Isaac Cruz, there's the interim champion. There will be news out there if y'all ain't heard it already, there will be news out there in reference to Isaac Cruz and his next fight that's coming up. Okay, so that's that's news here that's gonna be dropping. I'm not gonna say what it is because of my direct source. I mean, someone they had already released it out there during fight week for Canelo versus Crawford. But nothing at that time, nothing had been finalized as of yet. But they said that they're pretty much on go for that being the challenger for Isaac Cruz in that interim WBC super lightweight title. All right. So with that being said, you got Dalton Smith there. They're supposed to be facing Subriel Matias on November 22nd. Sandor Martin is there at number 3, Barbosa at number 4. What's another one? Oscar Duarte maybe at number 9. Jermaine Ortiz there as number 10, and Steve Claggett at number 11. You're supposed to have what? Jermaine Ortiz versus Steve Claggett, right? That's coming up. So they'll kind of see if they could stay within that top 15 of the rankings or whatever. So we're supposed to have that be a fight coming up, but who knows? With all that, right? All right, bet. What else? Let's go lightweight. Shakur Stevenson had his mandatory defense there. They're looking at him potentially facing Teofimo Lopez. They kind of like said it. Teo was talking about it, at the Box Fan Expo this past Saturday. So Stevenson competing at 135, nah, that ain't gonna really, happen that much. So if he's gonna end up giving up that WBC belt at 135 pounds, you have Andy Cruz there at number 1, Ricardo Nunez, number 2, Zapata there as of course challenger that lost to Shakur Stevenson there at number 3. All right. Outside of that, Albert Bell, had recently won over in Ohio there, and he's there at number 15. Hopefully he's able to, properly contend there in the lightweight division. We'll see how that goes. Interesting that Floyd Schofield is there at number 17 in the WBC rankings, but I think that's mainly because of his standing within the WBA. All right. Oshaki Foster, of course, is going to be facing Stephen Fulton, defending that title there at 130 pounds. Of course, Stephen Fulton is the featherweight champion there, right? You got Mark Magsayo there at number 1. You got Ray Ford at number 3. You got Gary Russell Jr. there at number 10 in the super featherweight division. Hey, Gary Russell and Mark Magsayo said, hey, if they make something, then they can have a rematch between those two. And Mark Magsayo's down for it. So you also had that's out there to look out for. Oscar Valdez is there at number 12. He did have a recent win there in Mexico. So you also had that. I mentioned there with Stephen Fulton there as the world champion at featherweight. Bruce Carrington is there as the interim champion. I've talked with Bruce Carrington multiple times, over and over and over and over and over and over and over. All right. Yeah, and they said like none of those guys are up there to fight him. None of them. None of the world champions. And it seems like none of these contenders, man. I don't know, man. Like you already had his fight against Suleiman Sagawa, right? Who's now at number 5. Suleiman Sagawa had fought on the Pro Box card on September 5th in Washington, D.C. Was able to get a stoppage win there. So you got like Sam Goodman, you got a Joet Gonzalez, that had that fight against Brandon Figueroa. Some people thought that Joet Gonzalez won that fight. So, hey, you got Mick Conlon that's there. Former world champion Odebek Komatov is on the rankings. You got Liam Davies there. Robeisy Ramirez is outside the top 15. You got Raiz Salim, that's recently contended there at the featherweight division. So you got that. So anyway, of course, had his win over MJ Akhmadaliev. There, Alan Picasso is supposed to be Inoue's next opponent there while being the undisputed super bantamweight champion. Luis Neri there at number 3. Marlon Tapales is there at number 2. Cardenas had that fight there against Iowa Inoue back in May. He is there at number 4. So that's kind of like the gist of the rankings there. Junto Nakatani is out there with the bantamweight championship and things like that. You got Tenshin Nakashikawa there at number one, Takuma Inoue there at number two, Juan Francisco Estrada there at number three. So we got like a few fights that could be interesting there within the the super flyweight, bantamweight, and super bantamweight divisions. I ain't gonna necessarily go too much into anything below that. You know what I mean? Y'all could check out the rankings there at WBCboxing.com. All right. So you do have that. But I wanted to get into, of course, what's been going down here with the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings. All right. Of course, as I mentioned, right, that there were two fights that happened over the weekend that involved three fighters within the top 10 of the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings, or at least the last one, right? So, we basically had that happen. And then after that, what went down was we had like a little bit of a shift. So we go back to the previous rankings here, right? So we're gonna go through those previous rankings that I had. You had Usyk at number one, Inoue at number two, Crawford at number three, Bivol at number four, Bam Rodriguez number five, Canelo Alvarez number six, Tank Davis at seven, Shakur Stevenson at eight, Benavidez at nine, Beterbiev at 10. And we do a pound for pound top 16. So we got 11 through 16 right there. Like you have a lot of these folks that do like pound for pound top 10s. They might have a couple of fighters that are outside the top 10. No, 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 no. Here at the Boxing Source, we get down to the nitty and the gritty. Okay. We don't even put in like a top 12. We don't put in like a top 15. We give you even one more right there with a top 16. Okay. So there you go. So that was as of August 21st, there with that top 16. All right. Now, with what has happened, over the past couple of days, kind of shift things over. All right. So now we go to the new pound for pound top 16. And there it is. You have Terrence Crawford, the new undisputed super middleweight champion. They're at number one. You got Alexander Usyk. They're at number two. I know recency bias, all that type of stuff. Yeah, Usyk did have his stoppage win, knocked the crap out of Daniel Dubois over there at Wembley Stadium, and he is, the undisputed heavyweight champion once again, right? He had Nayo Inoue that had his performance against MJ Akhmadaliev was, pretty much a easy decision win for Nayo Inoue. MJ, really didn't have any type of answer out there for Inoue. I think it was like I think it was a better performance by Inoue defensively in this fight than what he had there against Ramon Cardenas over at T-Mobile Arena in May. I think that was more about Inoue being more of a defensively sound fighter there in that fight than he's had in his previous fights. We've seen Inoue get knocked down a few times here. Like I said, against a Ramon Cardenas or slipping against a number of these other fighters, but against MJ, you really didn't see that. Okay. So, props to Inoue for his performance there against MJ Akhmadaliev. I think, he won pretty much like all but one round, if that, you know what I mean? But getting that unanimous decision win to keep those super bantamweight titles. And yes, he does have the upcoming bout there where he's going to have another defense of those titles against yet another, mandatory challenger, this time against David Allen Picasso. But then after that, we get the super fight between Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, who's there at number 9, right? You got Dimitri Bivol there at number 4. Of course, he relinquished that WBC title. David Benavidez has that belt at number 7. You got Shakur Stevenson with his performance that he had in Queens, New York there against Williams Zepeda. He's there at number 6. Ben Rodriguez there at number 5. Benavidez, as I mentioned there, number 7. But Turbiev, having just that lone loss to Bevel there, at number 8. Junto Nagatani there at number 9. And Canelo falls to number 10. Tank Davis was in the top 10, but given that he had his fight March 1st against Lamont Roach Jr., ended up being a draw. He's going to have his fight against Jake Paul in Miami, not in Atlanta, but Miami, coming up in November. So we put him outside the top 10. And so that would mean that he would have just one pro fight this year, because this fight against Jake Paul is an exhibition. He would have one fight this year. That's it. Pretty much like Terrence Crawford, but still one fight this year. So, yeah, you got to, put him down at least outside the top 10. You got Boots Ennis there at number 12. Devin Haney there at number 13. Teofimo Lopez there at 14. Emmanuel Navarrete, WBO champion, at number 15. And Roberto Zurdo Ramirez, unified champion in his division, at number 16. So there you go. That is the Boxing Source pound for pound top 16. All right. You don't have no other, publication or media outlet having a top 16. You only find it on the Boxing Source. All right. So there you go. All right. So that kind of like, shapes up what you have there within the pound for pound rankings. And I kind of like went through real quick the WBC rankings that were recently released. Okay. We do have, some fights that are coming up here for this weekend. You do have former world champion Leon Paro that's going to be facing David Papo. They're on tomorrow? Is that going to be tomorrow? Actually, they're over in Australia. On September 19th in Detroit, there's going to be fights there that's going to go through most likely their Salida Promotions, right? You're going to have Brandon Moore against DeAndre Savage there, Devell Smith against Jana Gonzalez. You're going to also have like Olivia Curry versus Kay Scott for the WBC middleweight title, all right? And then in September 20th, Oscar Collazo will defend his unified strawweight titles against Jason Vason, and Gabriela Fondora will be defending her undisputed flyweight championships against Alexis Kubicki, right? So you got a number of fights there that's going to be happening there on September 20th, all right? So that is the upcoming schedule here for this weekend, but that is, basically what I got here for the Boxing Source Midweek Report. Once again, big shout out to Coach Bernard Hackett for joining us here at the beginning of this particular episode here. As as I said, they're pushing to have that fight, Jalil Hackett versus Xander Zayas, for the WBO junior middleweight titles, as the WBO calls it. Okay, so if Xander Zayas wants to have that title defense in Puerto Rico, Jalil Hackett's like, hey, I'm willing to go up there and make that happen. All right. So we'll see how that goes here over the next couple of weeks. Just catch up with the Boxing Source on that front. Like I said, I'm still, in recovery mode, time change, time difference, all that type of stuff when it comes to going from Pacific time to East Coast time, everything like that. We also actually have here in this area, we're going to be having Jeter Promotions should be having something going down over in the DC area as well. So we should have fights there that's coming up for that. So we'll see if we could get like some quick updates in reference to that, right? So once we do have that, and I'm going to see if I could, make it out there. It's supposed to be on bxngtv.com. Once again, bxngtv.com. Rumble at Rosecroft 2. Let me see here. I'll see if I can share this here real quick before we roll out of here. Right. So we got thing there where you're gonna have a number of top young prospects there on that card. So that will be at Rosecroft Raceway there, but it'll also be shown live on bxngtv.com. All right, so that's what you got there. That's coming up here on this front. But that's it from what I have here on this instance of the Boxing Source Midweek Report. Big thanks for everyone that's been able to listen live. If you can, hit the like button, hit the share button there for people to hear what I had to say, reference to all the stuff that's going down. That new Boxing Source pound for pound top 16 in the comments from Coach Bernard Hackett, as far as like his son Jalil Hackett going after Xander Zayas for that WBO title. So with that being said, that's it for me, folks. I'm out. Peace.